Good morning, everybody. This is Stephen Pugh of the Home Bible College. We're in Numbers and chapter 16, where we see a very serious issue, the rebellion of Korah, and the solution to the problem in chapter 17. Once this is dealt with, the children of Israel can get on with the duties of the priests and Levites. But getting back to Korah, we see a man of the Levites who gathered a following together to speak against Moses. 250 princes of Israel, famous men of renown, who conspired with him to speak against Moses, to oppose Moses. What they said had become famous words repeated today amongst the rebellious. "You take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy," they said. They asked Moses why he had exalted himself above the people. Moses fell on his face, not for fear of what might become of him, but for fear of what might become of them. The men brought incense to burn before the Lord, but Moses was very angry. He told the Lord not to accept their offerings of incense. Moses told the men not to associate with the rebels because the Lord would deal with them. He said to the people, "If these men carry on living, then I am not God's anointed. But if the ground opens up and swallows them, then you will know that I am God's chosen." The 250 men that offered incense were destroyed by fire from the presence of the Lord. However, on the following day, others complained against Moses and Aaron, stating, "You have killed the Lord's people." The Lord appeared before Moses and said, "Stand aside, so that I may kill the whole congregation." But Moses said to Aaron, Go quickly and offer an atonement for the people." Aaron ran and stood between the living and the dead, and the plague from the Lord was stilled, and yet 14,700 died, apart from those who died with Korah. Next, Moses called the children of Israel to take a staff for every house of Israel, and they wrote every man's name on the rod, 12 in all. And the Lord said, "Put them near the tabernacle and the rod that brings forth blossoms, that the rods may bring forth blossoms." And in the following day they found that Aaron's rod had buds and blossoms and fruit, almond nuts. Every man's rod was returned to him, but Aaron's rod was kept in the Ark of the Covenant. In the next passage, the Lord outlined more of the duties of the Levites. They were put in charge of everything to do with the tabernacle of the Lord, and then the Lord explained what was the inheritance and the daily portion of the Levites. And the best of all, the offerings that were allowed to be eaten were given to the Levites for food. The Levites never had land, which would divert them from their attention from serving the Lord. Now, this passage today is quite incredible. We have, in Korah's rebellion, we have this tremendous situation in which the Lord judged not only Korah, but all of his family and all of his goods and his tents and everything. The earth opened up, and the whole of Korah and his family went down into the earth forever. That's absolutely an amazing thing. In fact, Moses said to the congregation, verse 26, "Depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins." And take a look at verse 31. It says, "It came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that pertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation." And wow, verse 35, and there came out a fire from the Lord and consumed 250 men that offered incense. And my password is a little phrase found in chapter 16 verse 48. It says, and speaking of Aaron, Moses told him, quickly go and get an atonement for the people. And he ran and he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stayed. Now they that died in the plague were 14,700, apart from those that died about the matter of Korah. You see, the people, when they'd seen Korah die, they'd said, what are you doing? These were the Lord's people. And that was again another rebellion. They were not the Lord's people. They were sinners. They are people that had forsaken the Lord their God and rebelled against the Lord's anointed. But that little phrase, he stood between the dead and the living. What an amazing thing Aaron did that day. And I often think of that phrase when I think of those who preach the gospel. They stand between the dead and the living. And so there we are. That's a fascinating passage, really. And we learn much later that the Lord made other ordinances concerning the sons of Aaron. They were to do no work in the fields because they were dedicated to the Lord completely. And they were fed by the tithe that was given to the Lord by the whole of the tribes. And the Lord says to them, you're not going to have an inheritance. You're not going to have fields to cultivate. I will be your inheritance. What an amazing thing. Well, there we are. There's my thought for today, and I look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow. Have a great day. God bless you all. Bye for now.